CIOs, I guess I would start with one of the three themes. We talk about transforming IT, transforming business, and transforming yourself. And I think the CIO is one of the roles that's really being transformed with the wave of cloud, big data, and trust going through. Their role is to move and morph with the change that's happening. And if you think of it from the cloud theme, today most enterprise organizations are looking at a private cloud, public cloud, and bringing those two together. And that's uncomfortable for some CIOs because now where they've moved to an environment that they could control in the past and everything was within their perimeter to a world where some of the things are outside their perimeter. And their role shifts from managing an infrastructure, managing an application portfolio, to actually worrying more about governance, risk, and compliance. So our theme around trust. So the governance, which is how do you manage those dispersed environments, some with which are in your direct control and some that are outside your direct control. So if you think of EMC, we're one of Salesforce.com's largest users. We also use SuccessFactors. So we have data repositories that actually sit outside our environment that the CIO can't go directly touch the hardware that it's on. But yet he is responsible for the risk that's involved in complying to governmental policies wherever you happen to be. So the big change for the CIO is the role and the complexity of their role, which makes it a much more challenging role. Because when you own everything, you can put your finger on it. It's much easier to do that than in a cloud-enabled world where that data may sit, whether it's in India or outside of India, within your perimeter or outside of your perimeter, controlled by someone else. We started as a company with trying to virtualize our environment. Clearly we own VMware. They're the leader in an 80% market share globally around virtualization. But one of the first steps is to get your environment under control. So we went through that process, virtualized all of our servers, got to the point where we had done it before then moving to it as an IT as a service type of environment or a cloud world. Because virtualization and cloud are two different things. IT as a service is more around metered services to your customer base like you would get from a service provider, but you're an internal service provider to it. Also being more agile to the business and selecting what you actually need in the right place. So the thought process then that goes on moving from a traditional standalone environment, you buy a server for an application, connected storage, to a virtualized world is the first step. To virtualize it, the second step is to make it as a service to your user community. From a cloud perspective, it's becoming more mainstream. And the ops automation, part of it, the operations automation portion of it is becoming a bigger topic. How do I deal with, now that I've gotten a little bit of confidence in it, how do I deal with this world where I have private clouds and public clouds and probably multiple public clouds? How do I deal with that cloud management around it? So the change that's gone on in that industry has been moving from a static security policy where everything was within your perimeter. You could obviously secure that. You could make sure the things that you don't want to come in, prevent it coming in, the things you didn't want to go out, you could prevent them from going out. Now it's moved to a world that needs to be much more dynamic. And a large part of that is being driven by cloud, but the other part is being driven by the consumerization of IT as well. So now, from a trust perspective, you have to personalize down to the individual level, as well as gain trust and confidence if you're using public cloud in that company. From a big data world, while it's becoming much better understood from an industry standpoint, you're still doing a lot of market awareness in what big data is. Because many people are confusing business intelligence with big data. So big data is very large data sets that traditional IT infrastructure can't manage, and the reason is because you're collecting multiple sources of the data. So it's the structured data that we're used to in a BI world, but also the unstructured data. The other difference from a big data standpoint is around the fact that it's predictive analysis versus business intelligence, which is giving you understanding to what happened. So the predictive side is really the difference in it. We did an acquisition recently of a company called Isilon. And Isilon was around that concept of storing petabytes of information. But traditional storage infrastructure is more about adding capacity as it goes on. It becomes a very difficult problem to go deal with in many ways, but works great for traditional IT systems. Isilon is what's known as scale-out architecture. So as your data sets get larger, your data files get larger, over time you can easily add that on there, and the operating system itself can go do it. So customers that are dealing with that growing infrastructure are looking at different ways of storing it and then expanding as it expands or contracting as it contracts. But more of what your question is around is data is multiplying at a very rapid rate. It's not contracting, it's growing at exabytes a day, so that you need a different thought process around doing it. So from a pure infrastructure level, you have to adopt different technologies like Isilon to be able to scale out with that ever significant growing amount and volume of data that you have. From a cloud adoption perspective, an APJ, only 25% of the market is virtualized. Same thing, statistic for India. So what we see is the rapid adoption coming of virtualization, so becoming much more prevalent in it. When you do that, then the move to cloud becomes much easier. What we see in this part of the world is that a hockey stick effect is starting to occur, and that more and more people are having conversations like we're having right now about adopting it in a very different way. Before it was tell me why I should do it, what's the benefits of it, versus how should I approach the conversation. From a big data perspective, I think that the shift will be 3 years out. Today you have what I would call frameworks and software that's out there that are frameworks that allow you to go do it. And people are spending a lot of time on statistical models to go do that. I think what will happen is in the big data industry, people will start to sell frameworks of how do I analyze financial services, how do I analyze a airline, how do I analyze whatever it happens to be. And those frameworks will develop to expedite the use of big data tool sets. And so today, where you need a lot of consulting capability and a lot of data scientists, I think that some of the peers I would put in man time that's involved in building a big data environment and big data platform will become more standardized, and that it will become, well, you'll never get people out of it, because the intuitive side of it, the analysis side that you can't build into a computer program, will still have to be there. You'll be able to at least build frameworks for industries that can expedite the process.